Listen, liberals, you wanna know what peak male performance is? It ain't steroids, it's a fucking crab, apparently. So, all of a sudden, on one of the YouTube rabbit holes I went down one night while I wasn't feeling well, I discovered this amazing phenomenon called carcinization. And essentially, what it means is that nature keeps attempting to evolve everything into a crab. Now, everything's a little bit of an overstatement, but not by much. Essentially, there are two groups involved in this, and one is true crabs, the bitches we apparently put in Rangoons like they're nothing. And then we have my husky is giving me such a and then we have these non-crab crustaceans that are slowly botoxing and giving themselves a nip tuck in order to become a crab permanently. So one of the weirdest things is a lot of them also have names that are like crabs. For example, porcelain crabs look apparently near identical to a true crab. Guess what? They're not a crab. They're related more to a hermit crab or a type of lobster that just it's weird. But the original definition said in 1916 by a guy totally not pretentiously known as Lancelot Alexander Boradale is that the phenomenon, which may be called carcinization, consists essentially in a reduction of the abdomen of a marcurius crustacean together with a depression and broadening of its cephalothorax so that the animal assumes the general habit of a body of a crab. That's a lot of words. But essentially, what it means is that certain parts of a crab will morph into. That's a lot to digest. However, let's break down some key terms. So, Marcurius crustacean is some type of long-tailed decapod. You're looking at crayfish, you're looking at shrimp, and you're looking at lobster. A decapod literally means 10 legs, and all I can think about is that line from Shiny and Moana. It's just in there for me. But the cephalothorax or the prosoma, it's kind of an interchangeable term, is essentially a way of describing the segments that almost form as a spine that are in arthropods. And this can look like the head and the thorax being fused. It can look like being distinctive from an abdomen. And essentially, it is both based on biology and outside observations. So, without further ado, how the fuck does this relate to crabs and non-crabs? Well, there are a ton of evolutionary routes, and the original, I guess, root is the order Decapoda. And literally what that means is 10 foot in Greek. These are the common ancestor of all the crabs and true crabs that I will be speaking about today. And there's also a extinct order called Cichlida that is only found in fossils, but that could or could not come into play here because it strikingly resembles a crab. Told ya. So from there, we split off into two branches. We have Brachyura, which are true crabs. These are just straight crabs, the Rangoon guys. And then we have Onamura, which is where all the crab intimidators who are trying to, imitate the popular kids end up. And this is a lot. We have things like squat lobsters, porcelain crabs, Deep water sea anemone, hermit crabs, hairy stone crabs. We have the Aglidae, Aglidae family, which it's all just kind of South American freshwater crustaceans. We have mole crabs and sand crabs. We have king crabs. Yes, those aren't actually crabs. Coconut crabs. Yes, those aren't actually crabs. We have coke alongside cocoa. There are also just types of hermit crabs. Obviously, a coconut crab is part of that, but pretty much every hermit crab you're going to run into falls under this category. And there's so much evidence that from the get go to present day, everything just ends up evolving into a crab. But why even does this happen? So essentially, this process brings a lower center of gravity to the creatures. So think of it like when you modify a Honda Civic. It works. Everyone's happy except the police and your neighbors and your judgmental father. But, anyways, so there are certain moments where a lowered center of gravity, if you slam a critter and you put it low to the ground, it's able to move sideways more often. And when you're in the ocean, most things go so it can help you actually not get eaten by a predator. There's a ability of concealment. It's just easier to fit into rocks and coral and other such ocean structures whenever you're a crab. Another useful adaptation is the fact that part of the surface area of a critter can be reduced, therefore, the risk of, I don't know, getting injured is reduced whenever the hardening of the crab exterior benefits the environment. There's also some very, very interesting escape reactions. Pretty much, crabs are good at surviving in their environments. So everything becomes a crab. If something isn't broke, evolution ain't gonna fix it. Apparently, Darwin has favorites. Gosh, man. Allergies. However, not everything is easy. Greener, oranger, redder, crab colored on the other side. There is a process that is the reverse. It's called decarcinization. And that's a big word for Elmo. Essentially, you can lose this crab like body. And this has happened a little bit. Oh, this has happened. So you can lose. So apparently, this crab shaped body isn't the end all be all of adaptation. Truly, everything does not destroy become crab to survive. There is a process called decarcinization. And what that is that certain species of true crabs, as well as the suborder, including hermit crabs and decapod crustaceans, will evolve away from a crab like body. There are very, very wide ranges within this, both the reverse process and the original process. In fact, most species can't even be classified with the label, okay, crab, crab-like, or not crab, moving away from crab, restructuring the company of crab. And this is kind of fascinating because it challenges the assumption that most people go is, well, everything becomes a crab in the end. Because yes, that's funny, that's a good theory, but that's simply not how evolution and adaptation works. The whole benefit to selective adaptation is to survive in varying environments. If nature never progresses, then we're losing so much diversity and experiences of life. Hence why the theory of evolution begins in bacteria. And yes, everything could be this kombucha like sludge for the rest of time, but it's a lot cooler that things started moving on to land. We had T Rexes. We had my fat ass husky Dakota. We have my weird little adorable tripod bearded dragon that joins me in a lot of podcasts. That's the good and the bad of classifying things within these defined limits is yes, it helps us understand what things are and aren't and give clear meanings and understandings to big wide concepts, but it also kind of denounces the extreme diversity even within the same order or any other level of like taxonomy. However, back to decarcinization. An example of this is the coconut crab. A lot of them actually reduced their little outer crab backpack, the domiciles, and yet they remain their same phenotype. It then causes a weird in between label called semi carcinized. And of course, I want to mention the meme of it all. So, this is a very delayed reaction, but it's probably one of those things that just sparked me, and that's what I want to make videos about in my old age of 21. Essentially, it found popularity being an internet meme because it's a parody. It's this exaggerated look at a phenomenon that is damn near fascinating while it does oversimplify these large concepts, it also brings awareness to these very highbrow sounding, inaccessible scientific processes that help the salaryman and the underpaid research intern alike understand and appreciate the biodiversity and inherent beauty and creativity of life and nature itself. So, in all things considered, I will firmly state that carcinization blah, 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 is peak male performance, and anyone that says different can fucking fight me.